There have been 3 military coups in Nigeria before the abortive coup of 1976, the coups of January and July 1966, and that of 1975. Interestingly, the 1975 coup brought General Murtala Muhammed into power. 20 days later, he was killed in an abortive coup led by Lieutenant Colonel Buka Suka Dimka. In this video, we will look back at the trial and execution of Lieutenant Colonel Buka Suka Dimka and others in 1976. Please stay tuned. Hello, Hisplers. Welcome to Hispo Media. Gabriel here. Without much ado, let's get started. There was no law in Nigeria that prescribed penalties for organizing a coup against the military regime. Apparently, this was because the perpetrators of the previous coups were never convicted, and the establishment of a military regime was not contemplated by the existing treason laws in Nigeria's statute book. In the wake of the 1976 abortive Dimka coup, Lieutenant General T.Y. Danjuma detected the creation of a board of inquiry to investigate the coup and a military court-martial to try the culprits. The measures were dictated to the Attorney General Danny Bekwe, and the Treason and Other Offences Special Military Tribunal Decree 8 of 1976 was quickly enacted in late February 1976. This decree was the first to be signed into law by the new head of state, Lieutenant General Olusegun Obasanjo. It authorized the federal military government to establish a special military tribunal made up of military officers to try the coup plotters, including civilian accomplices, for treason, murder, or any other crime committed before the decree's implementation. That is, the decree was to have a retrospective effect. According to the decree, the tribunal was to be made up of a tribunal president who had to be an Army, Navy, or Air Force officer of the rank of colonel or other corresponding ranks. At least 4 other members, each of whom had to be an Army or police officer holding a commission of not less than 5 years. The tribunal members would be appointed by the Supreme Military Council, and the Special Military Tribunal was also empowered to impose a death sentence by firing squad. Interestingly, the first use of a firing squad in Nigeria was under Ojukwu's breakaway Biafra, when Lieutenant Colonel Banjo, Major Ife Ajuna, and Philip Alele were executed by a firing squad in 1967. The task of investigating the coup was given to the Military Board of Inquiry, headed by Major General Emmanuel Abisoye. The other board members were the Deputy Inspector General of Police Adamu Suleiman, Navy Captain Olufemi Olumide, and Lieutenant Colonels Murtala Muhammed and Joshua Dogonyaro, while Mamman Vatsa was the board secretary. The board subpoenaed witnesses, conducted investigations, and compiled evidence upon which a trial would be based. The board's findings were submitted to Brigadier Yar'adua. Almost 220 people were arrested, 130 were recommended for trial, and 66 were discharged. The investigators were said to be ruthless. At the time of the coup, Major Dabang was hospitalized. Notwithstanding, he and other military patients in the hospital were forcefully discharged from the hospital, arrested, and taken to face the Special Military Tribunal. While leaving hospital, Major Dabang bitterly criticized Dimka for rushing the timing of the coup. Interestingly, that confirms his involvement in the coup. But there have been a bit of confusion over who actually chaired the Board of Inquiry. While Brigadier Yar'adua's broadcast shortly after the coup clearly stated that Abisoye chaired the Board of Inquiry, General Obasanjo's biography, Not My Will, claims that Major General Akirin Nade headed the Board of Inquiry. Which of these do you think is the correct account? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. And of course, if you are receiving any value or are entertained by this video, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Enable notification so you don't miss our future uploads. Thank you. Ironically, Dogonyaro and Vatsa became coup plotters in the 1980s. While Dogonyaro participated in coups in 1983 and 1985, Vatsa was tried and executed about a decade later in 1986 for his alleged role in a coup. Surprisingly, the Supreme Military Council did not appoint officers with military coup tribunal experience to the Special Military Tribunal. Lieutenant Colonel Paul Omu and Major Inya served on the Commonwealth Military Tribunal with Danjuma, but both were overlooked. The investigation and trial of the coup were cloaked in secrecy to the point where the identity of the Special Military Tribunal's chairman is not well known even today. According to Gowon's biographer, Jonah Isawa Elaigu, the Special Military Tribunal was chaired by Major General John Obada, an Urobo officer from Bendel State in the south. Colonel Dimka Bali later confirmed that Obada was the tribunal's chairman. As a junior officer, Obada once served as ADC to former President Nnamdi Azikiwe. Obada's tribunal was unprecedented and was Nigeria's first trial for coup plotting. Some of the accused junior officers argued in their defense that they had simply been obeying orders, but the authorities were not convinced and refused to allow defenses based on obeying illegal orders. In the wake of grief and the spirit of retribution following the coup, no one bothered to ask some salient questions. Questions like why the trial was held in secret, why the decree was retrospective, and why members of the Investigation Board of Inquiry, Murtala Muhammed and Olufemi Olumide, as well as the trial chairman, were members of the Supreme Military Council and thus could not be considered impartial. The Supreme Military Council served as an investigator, judge, jury, and executioner at the same time. This was a dangerous precedent that would come back to haunt some of the members of the Supreme Military Council years later, when two of them, Obasanjo and Yar'adua, fell victim to the mechanism they created. The prosecution's case hinged on Dimka's confessional statements. He was bizarrely brought before the press with a fish grain. Dimka admitted that the voice on the tape was his and told reporters that he confessed without duress after hearing a tape recording of his confession. At one point during interrogation, Dimka claimed that eminent retired commanders from Gowon's regime, including Brigadier Ikwe and Major General Hassan Katsina, who was the former Chief of Staff Army, were aware of the conspiracy. Katsina was saved from prosecution and perhaps execution by the intervention of a fellow Fulani, Brigadier Yar'adua. Colonel Ramawa was also questioned for several days as a result of Dimka's overly broad testimony. It was alleged that Brigadier Yar'adua told his colleagues that the scope and hysteria of the probe could provide an opportunity for unscrupulous elements to frame and eliminate their enemies. But that did not deter the tribunal from bringing in almost everyone that was mentioned by Dimka. The relationship between Murtala's regime and Gowon was said to be friendly and cordial. Before his death, Murtala was ashamed to see photos of Gowon queuing for meal at Warwick University student canteen with other students. As a result, he dispatched Brigadier Danjuma to meet with Gowon and encourage him to abandon his studies and come home. Gowon was adamant on continuing his studies. As a result, the new regime began paying him his entire pension as well as a monthly stipend through the Nigerian High Commission in London. Dimka's confessions, on the other hand, strained relations with Gowon, as Dimka implicated Gowon by alleging that he met with him in the United Kingdom to discuss the conspiracy. Other disturbing connections between Gowon and the accused alarmed the federal military government enough to label him a suspect and request his extradition from the United Kingdom, a request that was denied. Dimka was Gowon's in-law and, like Gowon, belonged to the Angas ethnic group. Gowon's older sister was married to his older brother, Kwara State Commissioner of Police S.K. Dimka. Despite admitting that Dimka paid him a visit in the United Kingdom, Gowon rejected the charges against him, claiming that his only memory of seeing Dimka was of Dimka's incoherent and drunken words. Gowon swore, as an officer and as a gentleman, and by the God who made me, that I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. If it was their plan to carry out the coup and then ask me to go back, well, that is their own lookout. Because the investigation was sometimes conducted on the basis of guilt by association, every officer who visited Gowon in England was considered a suspect. Dimka told investigators that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Danjuma, also visited Gowon. Danjuma, however, told the board of inquiry that he went to Gowon with the permission of previous head of state, General Murtala Ramat Muhammed. Gowon wisely declined the invitation from the federal military government to come to Nigeria for questioning. Those found guilty were sentenced to death by firing squad. The Supreme Military Council, as expected, showed no mercy and upheld the death sentences. As they remembered their loved ones, several of the condemned men's final remarks were solemn. Major Kagara asked pardon from his wife and claimed that she has been good to him. She should be free to remarry. Lieutenant Colonel Adamu said, "Please tell my wife to remember her God. I ask for forgiveness of anybody I have offended. My wife, please check with my bankers about my house in Kaduna. Clear all debt even if by selling my things, so that my wife, who is carrying a pregnancy of 8 months, can at least live in peace." Major Joe Kasai was however unrepentant and maintained that he had no regret whatsoever. He said, "We thought of changing the social order. We have failed, so we must pay the price." The convicts were executed in 2 batches. 32 of the condemned men were executed on March 11, 1976. However, Bisala continued to protest his innocence even as he was being led to the execution ground at the famous Bar Beach in Lagos. Bisala was reported to have said, "I am going to heaven. I need no prayers any longer." Dimka, Gomwalk, Colonel Isa Buka, Major J.K. Afolabi, Lieutenant Sabo Kwale, Warrant Officer 2 Edward Bauer, and the police officer H. Sheyan were executed on May 15, 1976. Just before the firing squad went to work, Dimka grinned as a priest administered the final prayer for him while he was tied to a stake. The execution took place at Lagos' famous Bar Beach and at Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison. The only civilian executed alongside the military men was Gowon's brother-in-law, Abdul Karim Zakari. Unconfirmed reports also claimed that extrajudicial executions also took place outside the official list of convicts. Watch this video here next for a full history of Murtala Ramat Muhammed and his assassination in an aborted coup led by Dimka. Remember to smash the like button on this video, subscribe and enable notifications so you will not miss our future uploads. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.